In my last couple of videos, I talked about the weaponization of weather. I talked about the basics of how this is done. Today, we're going to talk about and look at videos from a whistleblower that gets more into the science of it. And also, he's going to talk about another array that uses electromagnetic energy to pump energy into the atmosphere or into the earth, which then creates these earthquakes. Let's check him out and discuss what he has to say afterwards.
Creatures that live here.
That there are technologies at the South Pole Station that people can't even consider that exist on this planet.
Like what?
Directed energy weapon systems is something that people need to get in their vocabulary fast. The ice cube neutrino detector is not simply a passive listening device as presented for the science that they're claiming it to do. It also has the capacity to transmit. There are embedded in the ice what are called digital optical modules, DOMs. They're about the size of a basketball. The array embedded in the ice is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. It is the world's largest telescope. And now, because we have proven that it can transmit, it's the world's largest directed energy weapons system. It is responsible for the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand in 2011 on the front end of the year.
How do you know for a fact that that was responsible for that?
Because I was present and I have gone over this with the pertinent people that I will not be releasing their names.
Okay.
But I was on the team, let's just say, and I've confirmed this.
Well,
I've provided documentation from the actual manufacturer's specs. So this unit was constructed, operated, and maintained by the University of Wisconsin, and just like every other device on the planet, whether you're driving an M1 Abrams tank or operating the ice cube neutrino detector, there's operator's manuals that tell you how things work. Right there in that information, free for everybody to find. I found it myself. I was directed to find it, I'll put it that way, and release this information. And it states very clearly that each one of these DOMs can transmit at 2,047 volts each. So these are currently the facts of life.
how do you know? I mean, how do you? I guess what I'm asking is, how did it even come to your attention that this triggered an earthquake? If you're at the South Pole and New Zealand had an earthquake, I mean, how did you know it came from the South Pole?
Without divulging names,
Without divulging names.
I could only say that it was communicated to me from team members that were present and fully read in at the time that they were aware. And since that time,
At the immediate, like the same day?
oh, absolutely, it was understood
Well, what was said?
that we accidentally hit Christchurch, New Zealand twice when they were trying to fire up this weapon for the first time. That it was friendly fire. It was not on purpose, but it occurred. That the system is designed for that, and it was just friendly fire.
So this is a telescope. That sounds like a. Is it a telescope?
Absolutely, it is. It is a neutrino detector for sure. It can accomplish its primary purpose. It can also transmit and then provide a multifaceted platform for directed energy weapons systems.
Do you have any idea how the earthquake was initiated?
From misfiring the system.
Where
Were they targeting?
Yes.
I don't know.
Does it go into the earth? Does it go
can-
into the atmosphere?
It can definitely go through the earth. I would consider that it might be able to do stuff in the atmosphere. I haven't heard that statement laid at its feet, but I wouldn't put it past it. I don't want to try to limit the functions of this device by my imagination or experience. I believe that's one of the problems with directed energy weapons is they are not like standard weapons of old where you have a gun and a particular caliber bullet, you pull the trigger and it does one thing. These platforms are way more complex than that. They do a lot of things.
What else do they do?
Excuse me. This system, additionally, in regards to the neutrinos, it detects the neutrinos that are apparently coming off of the new exotic propulsion systems for either off-world UFOs or reverse-engineered stuff on our planet.
What is neutrino?
Neutrino is a near massless particle that goes at, close, or beyond the speed of light. It is so small that it can pass between the electron shell and the nucleus of pretty much every atom on the planet. And the capacity of being detected at the South Pole Station when the neutrino impacts the nucleus of the water molecule of the ice in the glaciers at the pole, a reaction occurs. the nucleus and the neutrino become destroyed. A muon is created and ejected, and a blue flash of light known as Cherenkov radiation flashes in the ice, and that's what the DOMs, the digital optical modules, are detecting. That's their primary purpose as presented. Now, whether that neutrino comes from a quasar out in space or a exotic propelled engine off of vehicles that aren't being discussed contemporarily, it detects it, thus making it basically an air traffic control center for all non-discussed vehicles on this planet. So just like we have all the other air traffic on the planet and it's being completely observed and attended to, there's just another level of craft on this planet and another level of air traffic control tower that exists. This is that facility.
Back to tracking neutrinos. What is that? Why are they tracking those?
Oh, for the purposes of science, they're claiming that there's a lot to be ascertained by understanding the difference between low power and high power neutrino ejections from cosmic occurrences. It's about that vague. This is what they spend our tax dollars on.
Let's talk about what else do they do?
The device is also for faster than light communications, quantum entangled communications at great distance. In, I guess it was the late 80s or early 90s, Gary McKinnon hacked NASA. And he found the list of the off-world space fleet and the captains of the ships respectively. We have a fleet out there. If we have a fleet out there, we need to communicate with them. This is that facility.
Can you explain quantum entanglement communications?
Yes, I don't think most people understand what I'm about to say anyway, but I will. The way quantum entanglement works is that you can take two particles, quantum entangle them, and then take those two particles and move them at any distance in the cosmos. And let's just say, for example, if you quantum entangle two electrons and you have them spinning in the same direction, and then you take one of those electrons and you shoot that thing out 100,000 light years from the original. If you then rotate the spin on the one electron, if you modify it so that its spin changes, the quantum entangled electron at any distance will simultaneously, in no time, switch its rotation also because they're quantum entangled. So these communication systems are taking advantage of this aspect of quantum mechanics that most people can't wrap their heads around. And this is what they're utilizing. It's just the new level of science that affords us the ability to communicate at any distance instantaneously.
I've heard about this. I've tried to dig into it, and it's hard to understand.
It is hard to understand. It would be my best way to put it is that when electricity first came out, it was very hard for a lot of people to understand what Nikola Tesla was getting at. But everyone was using it before they even understood it. And this is just where we are right now. It's just a new technology. It's a new conversation. People don't have to understand it yet. They just have to realize it's real.
What other kind of things can this?
Oh boy. Voice to skull technology. This is also in the foray of directed energy weapons.
What is that?
The ability to, let's just say, throw your voice into your head or my voice into my head, or allowing algorithms that now they can blanket a whole geographical area and they can make everybody change their thoughts. They can, I use the term intrusive thoughts. Back to that fork in the road analogy. If you find yourself where you have to make a decision about something, next thing you know, you catch yourself kind of having an argument in your head with your own voices. Well, the ability to add another one of your voices in there, but have it controlled by somebody else's microphone, so to say, is a very powerful tool. And I think this is a weapon of war that we are seeing happen to everyone around us. The Department of Defense recently started initiating protocols for their employees, their agents, to discuss Havana syndrome-like symptoms. And on that list is that their agents are hearing voices in their head. And this is what they're getting at. This is that technology that, next thing you know, you're trying to make a decision, but there's another Sean in your head that now is actually somebody else's control. And through the manipulation of that voice, they can now push you. Just like we have, the cell phones are weaponized now, the social media platforms, and they can engage with an algorithm, and they know that they can push you in a direction by repetitive information being displayed in front of you, similar to the Takistoscope in grammar school, that they can learn your system and they can learn to manipulate it on a personalized level by just assessing you, what the things are that you're interested in, what are your weak points, what's the crack in the dam, what's the angle of attack. And it's through repetition and access. These are simply electromagnetic impulses in your head. It's not that they can't be read, it's not that they can't be copied, and it's not that they can't be just replayed with somebody else's control. I mean, I could get a voice changing thing and I could sound like you if I wanted to. I could call you on the phone, I could call your loved ones, and I could pretend I'm Sean. And they can do that for you in your own head.
Wow, a lot to unpack there. But what the main thrust of this is that he discusses working on a project that embedded arrays in the ice, which then could pump electromagnetic energy into the earth or into the atmosphere. He said that there was a blue discharge that happened when this occurs, and that is seen. I've seen that in the election year of 2020. Of course, a few days before the election, New Orleans got hit by a hurricane, just like recently, all these late hurricanes during election seasons. But anyway, there was all kinds of weird electromagnetic blue and green discharges that could be seen, that I saw, that other people could see, and I discussed it with other people. Weird things that you don't usually see in storms. People are starting to wake up to this. This is the reason why I have this channel, Ultra Top Secret. We talk about exotic weaponry and technology, and this is that in spades. So we know of at least 2 arrays, one in Alaska, one in Antarctica. And by the way, around 2017, 2018, there was a hurricane hauling across the Atlantic toward the eastern seaboard, and I was watching some weather map, and I saw a discharge go off from the Antarctic island to the hurricane, and the hurricane immediately dispersed after it, very, very soon afterward. So these things can, and that kind of backs up his story as far as one being in Antarctica. So we know of 2 arrays, and like I said, I've known about this for a very long time, since Katrina. We need to start looking back at all of these storms and seeing all the weirdness to them, the higher power levels that these things have, how quickly they form out of nowhere. Usually hurricanes come from the western coast of Africa, build as they go across the Atlantic, sometimes get into the Gulf of Mexico. But we see, and then continue to slowly build and then do their thing. We see with Katrina that it just started in the Gulf of Mexico, not too far from New Orleans, and then just cranked from a one category 1 into a 4 within a day, and then slammed New Orleans. The last hurricane that New Orleans just had a week to 10 days before, Helene, hit the Carolinas. Same thing, we've seen it form in the Gulf off the coast of Mexico, and then haul ass across the Gulf of Mexico at about 30 knots. Extremely fast for a hurricane. As soon as it gets to New Orleans, it stops and sits there, and the strongest part of the hurricane just hammers New Orleans for a few hours and then continues on, which again is, when something like that has that kind of momentum, you would think it would keep going, not just stop to zero movement and then have its eye wall, the strongest part of it, hit the New Orleans area for a couple of hours. And then UFOs are seen later in the area with laser beams hitting the ground. I will show these videos in later videos that I will do. So all kinds of, always weird stuff with these things. This guy talked about a lot of stuff that we're going to ultimately talk about on Ultra Top Secret. He talked about quantum entanglement, where you can take two particles, photons, say, from a light source, quantum entangle them, and then have them go off in different directions in the galaxy. And it doesn't matter how far they are away from each other. When you interact with one, the other one will immediately know what its twin particle is doing. So that is also known as, he called it quantum entanglement. But another thing, another thing that shows is non-locality. That means that the locality of these objects doesn't matter. They are affected as soon as, no matter where they are, they are displaying supraluminal, faster than light technologies. And he was saying that they were experimenting on that, being able to communicate across the galaxy at faster than the speed of light. So instead of having to use a radio wave, which goes at the speed of light and would take thousands, tens of thousands, millions of years to get to some of the even closest other galaxies that we have in the universe, we could use this quantum entanglement, this non-locality thing, to communicate with people in other parts of the universe instantaneously. It's also called non-locality. He also mentioned a hacker that hacked a system. He touched on it briefly and then moved on. But we know also about this at Ultra Top Secret. There was and we're gonna get into this later in upcoming videos as well. I forget what his name was, Gary something. He hacked into NASA and he found names of a fleet and names of captains, a fleet that was not terrestrial, that was not in the water. It was a fleet of ships that were outside of the Earth that were patrolling in the solar system. He didn't mention it in this video, but the name of that fleet is called Solar Warden. I've known about this for a very long time. I've written books on it. I've written screenplays about it. It's a very interesting concept, and I'm very sure that it's real. There's guys with telescopes that have been observing platforms in space. The TR-3B is part of this Solar Warden program, and he's equating that with the array with the Solar Warden program. All very, very interesting things that we will talk about later. I don't want to get into that because I want to stay focused on the arrays that are being used to electromagnetically create and steer these weapon systems, these weather weapon systems. It looks like he had said that that one had created the earthquakes at Christchurch. I had suspected that Haiti and also the Philippines in the early 2000s were also whacked by these secret weather weaponization systems. And it's quite sick and disgusting that they can destroy thousands, maybe millions of people with these things and blame it on nature. What's happening now is somebody's using this to try to weaken the supply chain, weaken the United States, bankrupt the United States with insurance claims and all that type of stuff. I suspect that the Chinese have been told how to make these as well. Special access programs that were leaked to them by the CIA and CIA assets like Hillary Clinton. I suspect that the Chinese have one or are working on one, and that is a scary thought, that they could continually attack the United States while no one really knew about it. The military knows about it. So a lot to unpack in this video. I really, really, really liked this video. Sadly, more people are being deleted with these weapon systems, but And he said it is a direct energy weapon system, and people need to get this in their vocabulary very quickly. So what we're seeing is there's a lot of people being awakened by this last hurricane that hit the North Carolina, East Tennessee area. And we need to wake up, and that's what we do here at Ultra Top Secret. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like what we do. I only get paid in likes and subscriptions and shares. So that's it. I'm going to get on out of here. I hope you like this episode, and stay tuned for more. We're going to be staying on this weather weaponization tip for the next few episodes.